Owen. So, first of all, happy that we're finally here. Um, Owen, you've been one of the biggest references in the UGC space, I think for a while now, and I think we've generated over 200 million views. Worked with a lot of big brands and a lot of interesting stuff you're doing around, also the kind of creator ecosystem, creator space. So I want to start at the very beginning. How did you get into UGC? How did you get into this space?
Well, Alex, thanks for having me. I appreciate it a lot. And one of my first clients, I'll just say this before I get into that, was Minutes AI and then Turbo AI. And
Yes.
they both like your name came up both times when talking to them about. They're like, oh yeah, I think we're working with Plutus, and I was like, oh, what's Plutus? I had no idea. I was just finding out about all this, so it was great. Anyways, so I've heard about you. You're also highly referenced in the
That's
space.
amazing. Great to hear.
But yeah, so I started doing my own content journey in late 2022, early 2023. Um, I had just graduated from Clemson. I was working a sales job, fully remote, not really doing anything. I didn't have a lot going for me. And well, actually, I'll back up to the actual beginning. So I was playing junior college basketball in Southern California at a school called Santiago Canyon from Orange County. And I had knee surgeries in high school, so I just played JUCO because I really wanted to play college basketball somewhere at a cool school. My freshman year in junior college, I ended up breaking my back, had an L5 pars defect. So what happened was I knew I was bedridden for basically a year, no sports, nothing, and this was around end of 2017, early 2018, which was right when Fortnite came out. So I told myself, all right, if I can't do anything for a year, I'm gonna become a professional gamer. So I basically played like 12, 15 hours a day for a year. I had my first pro event called WSOE 3 in Redondo Beach, California. It was a $100,000 tournament, and I qualified for the grand finals and became a pro. So for the whole next year, that's what I did. I got burnt out. I went to college, kind of finished up, stopped playing Fortnite basically. But I started doing content, and I in for my first year of doing content from 2022 to 2023, I got 10,000 followers. And that was not great at the time, but I didn't really know what I was doing, and I thought people would like me for fitness content because I was running and training and all that stuff. And I think there's a lesson in here later, but um, I ended up when I had like 10,000 followers on TikTok, like 2 or 3,000 on Instagram. I got a DM from Whoop, and they said, "Hey, what's your email? We'd like to talk about a paid partnership." I was like, "Oh, so sick." So, they're one of my favorite brands. I sent them my email. We went back and forth, and they asked what my UGC rates were, and I had never heard of this before. It was 2023. So I asked one of my friends. His name's JD Runsfar. He's like Lululemon's main athlete now, and he was like, "Just tell them you'll do one video for 500 or four videos for 1,500 for UGC." And I was like, "Cool." Send it to them. They're like, "Sounds great." We also want to do some sponsored posts and stuff too, and the total came out to for a sponsored post. Once they said yes, I asked for $1,000 for a sponsored post, um, because they didn't say no to any of the other prices. And I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna shoot for it. And it took them like 3 or 4 days to respond, so I was sweating. I was like, man, did I just ruin this my first contract? Um, but they got back to me. They're like, let's do 5 videos, $3,750 a month, for 6 months. And at this time I was working that sales job, and that's literally what I was making from my paychecks twice bi-weekly. So I did that deal, did a few other deals, ended up leaving my sales job, and became a full-time UGC creator. And then I went into the other stuff after that.
That's insane. I think, and Whoop is a huge brand as well. And I know there's other big names like even Lululemon, right?
Yeah, so I was part of their creator network. I was Kane Footwear. I did videos for them under an agency called Nibble, with Brian Blum. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think I've heard that.
Yeah, Brian's great. Like, he taught me a lot. But the reason why I bring up the Fortnite thing is because I was talking about UGC, and I there's a lot more to this story overall. But someone DM'd me. I had like no followers on Twitter, and I was just tweeting about it. And this random account, I'm gonna dox him. I'm sorry. Uh, his name is a single clap, and he messages me, and he's like, "Hey, I saw you did UGC and I recognize your name. Did you play Fortnite?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Dude, sick. I have this app called Minutes and we're looking for UGC creators."
Man.
So he recognized me from the Fortnite thing, and that's how I got my start in the like community agency thing.
Yeah.
Uh, So shout out to Philip at Minutes for introducing
Philip is great. And I think also UGC has been around for a long time, unlike what people think. So let's level set for people who maybe are new to this. And when we were speaking about UGC and all these terms, what do we actually mean? So people confused a lot from what I see with like influencer marketing and brand deals and all this, or even ads. Traditional ads. You have UGC that you use for ads. All this. What do we mean when we say, okay, we're doing UGC organic for brands, for example?
Right. Yeah. The terms are very, very tough. Pretty much every person kind of calls it different things. But for the most part, when I say UGC now, I'm referencing organic UGC and growth marketing. And we can get into all of that and how,
Yeah.
how we do it or, all that stuff. But traditionally, when I hear traditional UGC or meta UGC, it's purely for ads and paid, which is just a completely different game. It's a different style of content for the most part. And yeah, it's just
Yeah.
different. But for the most part, I'm talking about organic now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when people say UGC organics, really, when you actually act as an ambassador almost of the brand, you're almost, reviewing their stuff online and these accounts that ultimately you create for them or for the project. But yeah, I mean, it's insane because again, I don't know, you mentioned like 2018 and then 2020. We've this whole thing, this whole UGC space has existed for a while. So how do you like? I'm curious to hear your thought on this because early on, people who did this for apps specifically were very few. I think Philip might have been one of the first to do it, and Jenny AI even with some of the first campaigns. But how do you see that evolving now? Because now the space is super crowded. What do you see as the biggest difference? Like back then, right now?
It's all about the consumer, right? So this is usually we're talking about TikTok specifically for organic UGC because this is a consumer space.
Yeah,
Um, the the reason why a lot of those apps early on did so well is because the consumer was completely unaware that they were getting destroyed with ads.
exactly.
I remember the first time I watched, I think it was Vic from Minutes AI, one of her ads, and I was like, wow, this is actually incredible. Like, what a great ad. You're watching like the Zoom meeting, you're like, this is so cool, and then you're just watching this tool, and then I was like, holy hell, they must be printing. Like, no one knew
Yeah,
back then. Now everyone knows. Consumers are extremely hot on it. Um, but the biggest thing is, as you know, well, from the brand's point of view, what converts, which is talking head, super authentic, feeling pain points, all of those things. Um, and then for us, just relating to the consumer as much as
exactly.
possible. And it's really just pain points, which for the most part are money or weight loss or
Yeah,
insecurities. It's like what are the biggest pain points people have, latching onto those, and then plugging in a product. I mean, that's kind of what we do for the most
yeah.
part.
Yeah, and there's a world of things here. I mean, for the more physical product world, TikTok Shop came to kind of basically do that in a different way at scale that also, benefits creators with payouts and with, commissions. And then there's this whole opportunity still with the UGC Organic for the consumer app world, where it's like you have these consumer products that touch on, very well-known pain points, and then you have UGC, which is basically people posting organically on social media about it. And again, I'd love to hear your thought on this. Um, how much do you think TikTok had an influence on that? Because TikTok came in with a completely different algorithm that kind of, potentialized this whole thing with pushing individual videos instead of big accounts. So
Yeah.
how do you think about this with the space?
It's just this democratization of media that we've seen trending for 10, 20 years now, if not more. As soon as the internet came out, instead of a conglomerate or a few companies essentially being the source, people now look to everyday people to get their information. um, and then even more than that, this is the craziest part, is they read the comments on the videos to actually make decisions. I'm not
Yeah,
sure if you guys are doing, you're probably like paid commenters and all that stuff, but
yeah,
that's what we do. And, it seems to work really well, because people trust. I think it was Zach Yadagari in like At Mafia course I
yeah,
watched or something, but he said that there is a study that people trust influencers more than they trust the news or doctors or pretty much anyone, which was crazy. And then even more than that, they're going to trust people that are randomly commenting because they know those people commenting essentially have nothing to gain at all by commenting, and that's where they're making their decisions.
yeah,
So yeah, TikTok had a huge thing to play because you could be no one, go viral, and you've built credibility based on how good your storytelling skills are or how well you can relate to people. It's, following doesn't even matter. I don't even know how many people are looking at followings anymore. It's
Yeah.
a, you know,
No, and look, let's build on that democratization of media. Like you said, I love that term. Um, this also came to kind of create a whole new industry, like you know touched on with the Whoop deal, for example, for everyday people who can now just be creators for brands because they don't need to have followers,
no,
right? So,
the most important, well, think about why someone would follow in the first place. Usually, people would follow, and you can see this in UGC campaigns. If it's a series, or if they gain something by following, they want to see the next part. And a lot of people on social media don't prioritize that anymore. They prioritize, like, if I post this video, what is the result that I will get? Maybe for some people, if they're selling a business or like an offer, and they just want to get 1,000 to 5,000 views on a short form video because they're going to hit their target. They're not trying to necessarily get someone to follow, but you'll see other UGC accounts like Whispers with running that entire program, and those guys have hundreds of thousands of followers because they're saying, message this, check back for part 3, follow for part 3, whatever, and they're making this cohesive story. So yeah, I mean, the follower thing, it just depends on what kind of content you're putting out. I don't think it's like the most important thing in the world. Still has a little bit of weight, but definitely way less, and it will continue to have way less over time.
I agree, and I think it's almost even harder now to get people to follow a page than to get them to convert from one single video.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I mean, unless again, it's like a pure. If you make a new social media account and you go scroll on Reels or TikTok, it's just slop, which means you're competing with like the most like digestible content of all time. So it's very hard to gain a following now, unless you're kind of competing in that space. Example, this would be maybe someone like Togi, who's kind of blowing up his personal brand, but it's essentially more slop, and that's.
And even these big creators, what we're seeing is that they're prioritizing more of live interactive styles of content so that they can have a lot of clips go around social media on like completely unbranded accounts. So that also, on a personal brand level, it's almost like they're trying this high volume approach as, consumer apps or consumer brands are also doing, but in a kind of different way.
Yeah, there was this idea that you could only post 3 times a day on TikTok for a while, and there's technically no downside to posting a egregious amount of volume, and you've seen this with guys like TJR. There's no downside.
Exactly.
The upside is if you're, and I do believe long form clippable content is 100% the way to go, and you'll see this in any industry. For instance, politics with someone like Fuentes, who's doing long shows and has just so many clippers, and it just rose like crazy because of how many people are distributing his content. So yeah, it's all democratization, as much content as you could possibly put out there, and that's why like the classic Chad marketer meme with just an egregious amount of content kind of wins. And I mean, if you can make a really polished piece of content for long form, great, but then the value comes from putting it on short form and having that mind share over everyone. That's why I believe in UGC for any type of business, really. If you want to grow and have mind share, you can get hundreds of videos instead of just paying a single creator or influencer for a few.
So yeah, I think it's this new thing people kind of tapped into, brands tapped into, that you can just get everyday people to become creators by just posting about the thing they're consuming, and it's almost like they're putting out your brand and your brand's name into this kind of collective consciousness on TikTok and Reels and all this.
Dude, Alex, let me tell you, I knew this was coming, and that's why I started my creator community, because a year and a half, 2 years ago, as a creator, I was watching like AI begin and talk of self-driving cars and all these things. I'm like, content, essentially this style of UGC, all these businesses are going to get creators for a very, very good price where everyone wins. You're going to make more than you would make driving for Uber or any of these different industries, which are, by the way, going to be taken over by robots. And people try to say the same thing about AI and UGC. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on where you think that will go. But for the most part, content is a better gig economy than any of these other things, and it will continue to grow. And that's partially why we built the app that we did for creators, which I'd love to talk about too. But
Yeah.
what do you think is going to happen with AI and UGC?
No, that's a great question. I think there's a lot to be said there. One thing I think about is if people realize it's an AI video, there's a big drop off point. So
It's
if
quick.
they realize, okay, this is an AI avatar talking. So I think two things are going to happen. On one side, the AI is going to get better, so we're going to have content that's just continuously closer and closer to what a human creator would produce. But then what that tells me is that on the human creator side, the only thing we really need to learn how to do to continue this industry, and to continue building trust with the consumers to prove that your video is human. Because if people clock that it's AI, they'll just drop off. They won't, they'll see through it. So I think there's going to be a lot of innovation on that side of how creators position themselves to prove that they're AI. And we've seen this across the AI evolution so far. There's always little things that are tell signs, and I think that's going to continue to happen until whatever we reach a point where it's impossible. But then it's just harder, and I think there's where live content, long form, wins. But I'm guessing we're still far away from that. And on the UGC side, I see relatability, raw creators, raw clips, raw content that really looks organic, like you're talking on FaceTime or like whatever, is where the big wins are
I
coming
agree.
next year.
And things will always get harder. That's just part of it, but that's why value is created because if you're able to succeed when things get harder, that's the whole game. That's why we all do this. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So, Owen, there's a lot of things here. So this is one thing that I find really cool. So you've done a lot of views for yourself. You've done like 200 million or something, right? It's an insane number.
I've
Um,
uh, I've privated a lot of videos as well, so I feel like I'm probably north of like 300 million.
Nice. That's nice, man. I mean, you're obviously a great creator. And one thing I want to talk to you about is getting into a bit more of the tactical, mechanical side of things. When you're creating content, do you have a process you follow that's repeatable, that, it's kind of a routine, or is it more like how do you come up with the ideas and then publish the content, even whether it is for brands or your own accounts? Do you have a process you follow?
Yeah, and when I started again, like my first year, I only got 10,000 followers, and it was through fitness content because in my mind, I was like, people are gonna want to watch fitness content from me because I felt like that was my value. Um, After a year, I was like, man, I feel like I should have done better. I was posting 3 times a day. I was super consistent. I was making high quality stuff. I was like, maybe that's not what people want. It's almost a little bit like entrepreneurship in that regard. It's like, what do people actually want? And you just make
Hmm.
that. And so, I learned about TAM, like total addressable market. And if I'm making fitness content or specifically hybrid training, maybe I dominated that niche, and that's how I got that deal with Whoop, which is important. But if I wanted to grow my following and cast a wider net, then I needed to change the type of content I was making. So I stopped doing the fitness stuff and went more towards just storytelling in general. Um, and when I started, I didn't have like incredible stories for myself. I'm low key kind of a boring guy. Like I played Fortnite and gaming in college. I didn't like go out or anything. But I have friends that do, and I have girls that are friends, and I would listen to their stories, and they would have a lot of the same stories that they would tell based on guys that they would date or things like that. So I just started telling stories based on what I've heard from people around me that I thought were really interesting and like captivated me. I told those stories, they popped off, and that's where a majority of my views and following came from, was like dating content about wide TAM things that were extremely digestible. When I started, and I still do this occasionally, I have to catch myself. I have like 2 modes. One of them is I just talk like this. I just go, 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 go because I'm like excited or whatever. And then when I make the best style of content, it's more of like dismissive, bratty, like people could, I have like a punchable face kind of content where I'm like, sitting in my chair, like, you know, I think one of my best videos is like, my dad put creatine in my yogurt. And instead of just like saying 3 reasons why, you should take creatine as a kid, I was like, I want to make a story. And so I sat there and I was like, my dad put creatine in my, and so that like pattern interruption in your hook is just so key instead of just sprinting through it. Cause I love sprinting through it. I love making content and posting, but you have to kind of like have this attitude sort of thing to break like this general glaze. If people are just going to be scrolling and they need something that just is like different.
Mhm.
So it's just a little bit of distinguishing yourself, storytelling, relating.
Yeah.
whenever I hear ideas or stories, I just kind of like to share them. I don't actually post to my main TikTok anymore because
Yeah.
now it's not my goal. Like your goals change, you do different things. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, and look, I think the whole storytelling aspect of things, and the whole being organic and just not really caring about there's a framework at the end of the day, which is obviously you do a good hook and your story needs to be compelling enough so that people keep watching, but the delivery is everything. If you're delivering it as if, again, you were talking to a friend, that's what people want. People want that kind of raw thing out of their feed, and not feel like they're getting spoon-fed something, or sold something. So looking back at those biggest wins you had, can you see things in common
yeah,
across the videos?
yeah, and most of them I wasn't trying that hard. It was more so just very real stuff that I would share, and kind of talking with a little bit of that attitude. It's important to change your cadence, change how you
Mhm.
speak. Just pause, sit there.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
seen this, I'd love to show you like our UGC program for my app currently, but our best creator, he pauses a ton and it just works well. People comment about it. Um, so
that's
yeah,
great. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, and that's one thing I really want to get into, the kind of coaching side of things and the app side of things, because there's a lot of patterns in the industry that are very interesting in regards
yeah.
to this. But so, yeah, like at some point you just decided to go from being a creator yourself to helping other people kind of tap into this opportunity that they could also be creators, right? Everyday people, coaching them through becoming UGC creators. What made you decide to go into that pivot?
Yes. So my background at this point was fitness content, the brand deals. I was growing my following to like 100. I was close to 100K followers. I was dating this girl at the time who was also an influencer. So I had all these things. And I was like, bro, I'm him. We're good. Because I wanted to be an influencer, and I felt like I was close. And then that girl and we broke up. And for the first time, I always thought my content was in like good faith. Like I was trying to help people, like just sharing stories. Um, I got slandered on social media after that. She was an influencer, her friends were like very popular. So I got slandered. I was like, damn, I don't really like this at all, actually. And so I was like, well, I know content really well. And to be honest, I wasn't like making crazy money. I was like, 15, 20K, that range as a UGC creator and through the creator rewards program and stuff. So I was like, I bet I can make a lot more money if I took this skill of content and applied it in a different way. So the first thing I did is I had a creator accountant. His name's Shailen Patel. He's an amazing guy, by the way. Shout out to Shailen. And I said, Shailen, like, I think I want to run like a UGC agency. Instead of an influencer agency, I want to do UGC. And this is when TikTok Shop was like becoming big and everything. So like my first client ever was a company called Honey Plus, which, those are Luke, Liam, and Noah? No, Ross. Luke, Liam, and Ross. And they were, on Forbes 30 under 30. But when we started, they gave me like a $1,250 to get like 5 creators. Basically, impossible, right? Because I just wanted something under my belt. Obviously, there's $0 for me. But that was where I started, and since then I just learned all these different things about managing creators, what
Yeah.
angles work. Now you could probably look at any creator and be like, this brand, this angle, like you just put it all together.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been doing it for how many years? Like,
Yeah, 3 years now.
yeah, you
Yeah.
could. So I kind of at that point was just scrambling, and it took me a while. But
Yeah.
then I kind of figured it out, and I went to the agency route, and I started adding clients. And then I just had a bottleneck of good creators, and I was like, "Ooh, this is not good. All my friends are on deals; they can't take any more. More brands want to work with me. What the hell do I do?" And so that's when I started the creator community, and it was free. And I had all my training videos in there. I was training creators, and then creators would join, and then I would just never hear from them again. So then I started making it a paid community, hoping that this is I had a mentor, and he gave me this idea. He's like, you need to charge, otherwise people are not going to care. So I was
Hmm.
like, cool. Nick Rogers, by the way, great guy. And Nick was like, yeah, people need to actually buy in and care, otherwise, you're going to tell them what they can make 5K a month as a creator. It sounds good, but unless they have stake in the game, then they're not going to try. So I started at like $500, and someone paid it, and I couldn't believe it. It blew my mind. I was like, no way. But then I thought about it, and I was like, technically, I just paid like $65,000 for college, and that's like useless. And that was 4 years
Yeah.
of my life. So not only do you lose a lot of time, but you also lose a lot of money, and the return is not great. I was making less from my college job than I did from content. So, in terms of investment, it was one of the, I think it helped hundreds of people, really.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I've personally heard great things. And I think just I want to touch on something here because I think a lot of what business owners and brands struggle with is understanding what actually makes a good creator. Like, who can be a creator? What's that process look like? What are you looking for?
That's such a good question. I think it's a little bit of this idea of, is a creator like, are you born a good creator, or is it something that you
Yeah.
can learn over time? And the most important thing, I think this is true across pretty much all domains, is that you have to love what you do. And if you love social media and content, or online earning money stuff, then yeah, I think you could be a great creator for the most part. There's going to be some people where they're just not going to make it, but if you actually apply yourself and get the reps in, that's the thing, is I have thousands of reps doing talking head, so it's very easy for me to be like, oh, that guy just did this little trick, that this guy
Mhm.
had reps, like he's going to be great. So I think it's more of a, anyone can be good. It takes a lot of reps, and you have to love it. And if you have the time and you do the reps and you do love it, there's no reason in my mind why someone can't be great. But if you're a brand, in my mind, you should really only be working with creators that have gone viral before doing talking head.
True.
I wouldn't even bother with anything else. I would pay the extra dollar. I would go find the best creators, and I would incentivize them any way that I can, because creators are a hot commodity. Every brand, any person ever will be like, I need better creators. I need more creators. It's like, okay, well, that's expensive. Again, like Whisper's UGC program, I know they pay a lot of money, for a lot of views. So it's like, do you want to play that game? Do you want to get hundreds of millions of views? It comes with a budget for hundreds of millions of views.
Of
It's
course.
like,
Yeah.
so yeah.
I think this touches on also like, how brands or founders should think about working with creators. We hear this a lot in the space that there's this, first of all, there's a lot of misinformation in my opinion. And then there's this kind of notion that you can just hire anyone and get them to create content and it's going to work out. And like the reality is, from the creator side, absolutely. If you're just a normal everyday guy, you can become a UGC creator and make a living out of it. Full stop. It will take reps, it will take effort, but from a brand standpoint, you like the time and effort and investment that it takes to train someone up, you're just so much better off just hiring the best ones already. So this is one thing I want to ask you. So obviously you have this community, you have these all these people you've trained, you've done it yourself. How what advice would you give these founders and other apps and brands about how to approach UGC campaigns? What should they be doing?
I mean, that could be a couple hours,
Yeah.
Very simply, I think it's very important, who you know. If I am starting in my position now, I'll tell you what I did. I saw a viral video on TikTok because I'm on my third app. I was co-founder with Blake Anderson and Quinn on an app called Neuro earlier in 2025, and then I had a Bible app which I ended up selling my stake into my co-founder because it also didn't work that well. So, but what I did for the Bible app is I went to SideShift, the founders. I'm
Mhm.
friends with those people. They're really awesome guys. And I just
Great
asked
guys.
for help. I said, hey, is it possible, for me to get like an introduction to this creator? I've seen his viral video for SideShift. I would love to work with them. And they introed me, and they did me really well. And they continue to do that. And those are great guys over there.
Yeah.
So if you're a founder, I would really recommend trying to talk to your friends and ask for help. I'm UGC person at community, all this. If I saw someone crushing that I thought would be really good, I'm going to ask for help for people.
Yeah.
I think it's super important. Like, for instance, I could go to you and be like, hey, I have this great creator. They're looking for, a couple brands to work with. And you could be like, oh yeah, that creator is good. I think we could plug them into this brand. Kind of everyone wins. So, if you're a founder, you don't know where to go. You need to ask for help and talk to people. Yeah, I mean, I,
100%.
I personally, like, technically, I'm obviously, it's not my background, so I go talk to as many technical people as I can to kind of get like a, you know, overall
Yeah.
generalist view of what I should be looking for or doing when we're making technical decisions. Same
Yeah.
thing.
100%. And this is one. This is just my opinion here. I think on a higher level, like if you look at the best agencies or people in that world in the space, all of them go and use their connections, use whatever creators that are already doing well, and communities like yours, for example, to get good creators. So it's more that people who are trying to get into the space, who are trying to do UGC for the first time, there's a lot of unknown unknowns. So I think it's very, very important to definitely just, yeah, forget
I'd
about
watch your YouTube probably. Yeah,
look,
about the
and
founders.
just
Yeah.
forget about the cost in the beginning. Just budget for it and go for the best, because otherwise it's just,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
not worth.
it's not.
You need the best creators. That's just very simple.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, that's another question I want to ask you on the kind of whole creator economy and all this thing. Um, how do you, I mean, there's obviously very good creators. There's TikTok Shop affiliates that are, doing very well for brands. There are, other creators who are starting out that are doing very well for apps, for example. How do you see this for the creator world as far as, kind of the deal distribution? Is it more, are you seeing more of a pattern where the best ones take all, or is it more distributed? How do you see that now?
Um, do you mean strictly for like
Brand deals.
brand deals? Yeah. Um, I think I think the distribution for the most part is like more Pareto, 80/20 rule where the best creators kind of take everything,
Yeah.
as they should. When I started, I was like, let me get 10 creators on here. They each do 2 videos a day, 3 videos a day. Let's get hundreds, thousand videos a month. Um, 8 of those creators probably not going to hit anyways. May as well just pay the best two, the top dollar, and incentivize them to prioritize you. Because if you go with a very, very good creator, there's this guy, Timmy. I'm not going to say his last name, but he was so good. And, he had some things happen, so he stepped away from UGC. But I was like, Timmy, I just want to work with you, bro. Like, I would cut like 5 creators just to make sure you're, getting paid what you deserve. I think the same thing works with agencies.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend Charlie Munger. I was listening to a Founders podcast episode about him, and he was asked, "What do you think about hiring for CEO talent?" He's like, "Yeah, I just go look and see who's done the best job in the industry and try to hire that CEO." And the person's like, "Well, what about finding undiscovered talent?" He's like, "Well, I don't do that. Like, why would I do that?" I think it's pretty similar with creators. This is kind of like a little secret with what we do, but we have a wins chat for all the creators in our community that go work for these different apps. And so they like post like, "Oh, I just got 10 million views for this brand." And I'll be like, "You're working with me."
That's
And so
it.
I try to hire them. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, from what I see around, again, there's a lot of misinformation. I think just the best advice is straightforward, and it's kind of fundamental. It's just, yeah, look where the best people are, where there's already results to back up the claims, and kind of go there. Just forget about the rest. So, um, as far as creators, just the last question there, Owen, that I'm curious. Um, from the, there's always a few that consistently just crush.
Mhm.
What do you think makes a creator consistently crush? Is it like personality traits? How do you have anything you see in common with those?
Dude, honestly, they can be so different. Um, I don't know. I think it's a combination of just understanding what pain points of the person they're targeting has. When I think of people that have gone viral consistently across different apps, one, they're like, for instance, we have one guy who is a literal actor, and he came to Content Circle, and I was like, yeah, like, I don't know, man, like, you've never done it before, yada yada yada. And sure enough, his first brand, he got like 500K views for them in the first week, and I was like, okay, not bad. Hired him for our app, same thing, 500K views first week. And there were different styles of content, but it
Hmm.
was something about his cadence and how sincere he was. His user generated content was just really good.
Yeah.
Like, people, it was very authentic. And I think that's the main thing that separates people. Is a lot of people will post and people can tell in the first frame. If you're a consumer, you scroll all day, you know if something's not. It's almost like fishing, where if you're a fish, you see the same bug all day that you eat, and then someone throws like something fake, you're like, okay, well that's clearly fake. So you have to have very good presentation, just like a fishing, you know. So
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think, yeah, that makes sense. It's like, the kind of organic feel, again, telling stories well. Um, Especially naturally, like extroverted people usually do very well because they, have this
100%.
comfort and speaking to the camera. Now, let's talk about your app. Look, just from what I'm seeing in the space, and this should go to all founders in the consumer app space, like the best creators and the people who really understand organic marketing, I see a lot of them coming in for, the consumer app space. What made you I know this is not your first app, and I know, but why now? What prompted you to do this?
Yeah. Um, well, I mentioned fishing. I love fly fishing. The reality is it's hard for me to run the agency and care about my, different clients or all the creators. Um, but in theory, with the app, I can fly fish all the time and, have a creator manager run everything. I'm sure in agency work you can delegate and all that stuff as well. I just never got that good at it because I was like, I really cared about the client. So for me, it was a natural progression from creator to agency to community to software. Um, the thing was, when I tried the Bible app, I'm a Christian. I felt like that was something I should do, but it wasn't fully like my story. Versus now we've built a creator app, just so people know, it's called Artech, which is kind of a play on words of art and technology, because Steve Jobs like always said that you should build somewhere between liberal arts and technology. And I think content is art and also technology. It's a combination of the two. So it's kind of just a play on words. But essentially what it does is you upload a video and then you get feedback for your video on how well it's performing. And then you also get related content ideas. And the cool thing with our app is we have it trained on 3 different modes. So we have TikTok Shop, UGC, and Viral. And we have a strategic advisor named Briar Cochran. And Briar is like one of the best creator strategists on TikTok. You can go look him up. And so we've essentially used my co-founder and I, CJ Weber, to train UGC, Viral, and TikTok Shop prompts, and just, on billions of views, just fine tuning these, tens of thousands of times these prompts have been used now. And we think we've got to a really good place where if I upload a video, I'm going to get feedback that's meaningful. Even like as far as knowing the retention drop off on videos, like this part is literally too dull. Like you have to cut this or just remove it altogether. Just simple stuff like that. So, again, the idea is when I started content, I knew nothing. My co-founder knew nothing, and we've made careers off of it as creators. And we love that. There's many times where we think about it and we're like, man, what if we just went back to just doing TikTok Shop and UGC, bro? like we would have no stress. We would be chilling. But we wanted to make an app that helps those beginner content creators get up to speed and make money through content. Because, in the AI world, there's like a quote that there's basically going to be 3 jobs: AI researcher, content creator, or like felon, basically, because there's not going to be anything else to do. And I think that's true. And so we wanted to build something to help all these people coming to content now and in the next 10 years adapt and kind of learn. So I think that's why. And when I started the community too, part of me always knew that I wanted to start it and have a massive group of creators that I could launch my own product with. What changed was I thought it would be hundreds of creators. Really, it's just a handful of the absolute best that really matter. And that's where the value of agencies come in, like Plutus, where if you work with Plutus, you're getting viral creators. So you're kind of taking all that guessing work out that a lot of new founders will do,
Yeah, and I think for Artech, this also solves a big problem. Like, it's a great product from what I'm hearing, and it sounds like it's gonna help also a lot of new people that want to get into content to get just better faster, right? Because there's that feedback loop, and you can really see where you're failing. And I think that's for us it's been a huge thing, like feedback loops, at least with managers and with the team. But if you have software doing it, it's great. So for anyone who wants to check out Owen's app, we'll have that in the description here below. And Owen, one thing, so just summing up what you said, it sounds like you have the skill of content creation, right? So first of all, you go into creating your own content, right, and doing very well for yourself. Then you use the kind of same skill within marketing to go and teach other people how to do it. And also, with the agency stuff, it was kind of the same, right, managing the creator teams. And then taking the same skill, now applying it to a even higher leverage opportunity, which is software. And I think that's what a lot of creators are seeing, is like, I can just use the same thing I've already been doing into a higher leverage opportunity, and I'll just be much better, off.
Right. Yeah, I had a creator text me today, and he's like, "Dude, my girlfriend got 15 million views for a company called Cheater Buster," and he's like, "How much do you think? She made decent money. I'm not sure the exact number, but four figures, few four figures from it." And he's like, "How much do you think she would made if like we own the app?" And I was like, "I don't know,
Yeah.
100K plus MRR, man. Like, I'm sorry, like, I hate to say it." But obviously, the app game is a little bit tough. People don't know this, but Apple takes 60 days to pay out essentially. So, you can't just spend $1 on an ad, get $1 back that same day. If you're a consumer app, it's going to be a while. So your ways to growth are really influencer and UGC when you're starting.
Yeah.
So you better be really good at it, or you better have really good creators that want to make content for you for a good price.
Yeah.
It's a tough game to start if you don't have cash as a creator when you're on the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, definitely there's like a, cash flow constraint on the app side, but I think it's very important to plan for these things because
For sure.
I'm curious to hear your thought on it, but I really do think UGC now is the highest leverage opportunity for consumer apps. I mean, you take the consumer kind of world. You have an app that's software, so it's infinitely scalable, and then you have this approach that's basically doesn't depend on followers. You can have creators post essentially however many times they want or that you tell them to, and you get the same opportunity as big accounts. So do you think UGC is is up there as far as distribution opportunity, or are there others you also consider?
Yeah, for me personally, I think that it's 1A or 1B with like, if you have the most perfect influencer deal lineup, for instance, for Artech, this would be Briar Cochran, because I truly believe Briar is like one of the best ever at what he does. And so him plugging in Artech into his, audience that he's built for a year plus, just like perfectly integrated, like well thought out, all of that, great. But a lot of times you can pay an influencer and you won't make any money, and you'll lose like and so the opportunity cost of paying an influencer when it doesn't work out, which by the way is probably like 90% of the time, if not more. Let's say I paid an influencer 2K for a post. I could have paid maybe, at least one creator, maybe two creators for 60 or 120 posts for the same amount. And you're kind of just, if they're good creators, it makes way more sense to do UGC.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah. So like when I started this app, I had 2 UGC creators. That's it. I went for the 2 best that I knew. Both of them went viral. I was like, oh, cool. Now I take that money. Now I can go find a Briar and try to line up that influencer deal. And then from that, we'll get bigger swings, bigger hits. But, again, you just, for consumer apps, you need the MRR. And then you can just literally budget out deals like month by month. And I think you're chilling. I mean, I'm still kind of new to the consumer app space, but in terms of being a founder, but for the most part, yeah, best creators, do it cost effectively if you can. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's kind of what you do.
Yeah, and look, I'm curious on the industry side of things because obviously, there's kind of a pattern where even the biggest brands, biggest apps in the world are doing UGC. That's a fact. So how do you see this industry in the future? Where do you see it going? Do you think it's going to be a big thing? Do you think it's going to die down a bit with AI? Like, what is your take on that?
I think it only gets more important to connect with the consumer. And I think you just have to be aware of like where the world is and how many pain points people have. Again, I think I talked about this earlier, but the main pain points are money and like personal health. That's what people feel the most in their day-to-day lives. So UGC, in my mind, will be the best way to target that. And I'm assuming AI will get so good. And we've seen this a little bit with slideshows where it's almost impossible to tell if it's real or fake or not with pictures. And I think videos will get there soon too. Actually, scratch that. I've been on Reels. I've seen Reels when people are like, oh, this is so sick or this person's cool. I'm like, yeah, that's a fake person. But for the most part, if that's the case, then what's going to be most important is copywriting, and how well you can sell, and relate to people. Again, like, people just need to feel pain points or relate to you or be able to sit down and watch you long form. I know, especially for coaching or, any type of service-based business, having long form videos, like, you probably know this, but people will probably go watch your stuff, binge your stuff, and then want to work with you because they're like, okay, I'm a founder. I don't know any of this content stuff. Alex clearly does. I have the budget. Doesn't make sense to go anywhere else, really.
Yeah.
So I think long form will be the next thing, because then that's a lot harder to fake, really, and also a lot more expensive as well in terms of tokens.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I think also there's something to be said then, just as a follow-up, about a window of opportunity in the coming, year or two, to really capitalize on this UGC thing.
Totally agree, and I think people should be aware of that, creators and brands. You know, yeah, it's going to change for sure. We know that. That's just how the world works. But yeah, the window is limited, and you should feel urgency.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going to happen, but right now there's a playbook that works, and it's like you should jump on it while you can. And then when the new thing happens and we have to adjust or whatever it may be, then adjust. But for right now, definitely take advantage of where UGC is. It's fantastic, and there's never been more people, creators, aware of it, looking to get into it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree, 100%. Owen, let's say, another consumer app founder is listening, and they want to invest in UGC, they want to do this thing, they hire a team of creators, like 5, 10 creators. Realistically, how long do you think it takes to see results?
I recommend, realistically, well, two things. One, if they're posting for 2 weeks and the content quality is not good, and you're giving them feedback and they're not improving it, and they're, being stubborn or they're being hard to work with, you should let them go. I think, work with A players only. My co-founder always says that. I think he's 100% correct. Working with anyone less than an A player will drain your energy. And true A player creators are going to actually teach you about content. So you don't need to be on their necks or giving them like really rigorous scripts that are probably not that good. Let them cook and incentivize them with high CPMs or good milestones. Be like, listen, bro, you give me 1 million views, I'll give you $2,000. Because I know as a founder, if I get 1 million views, I'm going to be super happy. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
That's how I see it, is work with A player creators, and if they're not good right away, cut them. Now, in terms of results and how long it could take, organic is organic at the end of the day. So you can work with best creators. Sometimes it might take a couple months or 3 months to really hit. But in theory, you should see, if they're very, very good, you should see results first month, second month.
Yeah.
But again, it's organic, and even great creators don't, they're not going to just automatically go viral every 30 days on repeat. Accounts fade in and out, people get fatigued, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So
No, 100%. And I think that's also another point that's big on like misinformation in the space, which is timeline to results. I think a lot of people expect like in 2 weeks start seeing whatever conversion, and it just doesn't happen. It's impossible. But
you might get lucky, you
might get lucky. but also, I think in UGC you have an exponential effect on performance in a campaign. Like once something works, then everyone can just pivot into that and just kind of raises
drop the video in the group chat.
Yeah, exactly. So on the other side, what do you think makes most campaigns fail? Like, where do creative programs fail? All these people start trying to do UGC and are failing. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think primarily it's how good of a creator, if you work with bad creators, it's just hard, bro.
Yeah.
It's going to be very hard. And you can do it, you could train it. Again, I referenced Tobin with Whisper, and he told me that he trained and spent like a lot of hours in the trenches with his creators, teaching them lighting, teaching them basics. And I think that's okay, but for the most part, if you're a founder, you just don't have that type of time to really get in the trenches like that. And why would you want to? You just want to work with best players anyways. So I think the reason why they fail is mostly because of the content or the quality of the creator. And then the second reason would be too much micromanaging. Because if you solve the first problem and you get really, really good creators, then there's no need to micromanage and build them all these very tough scripts. And I know people disagree with me on that, but I really do think if you incentivize creators to go viral and get as many views as possible, and you have a requirement where they have to include the app for 2 seconds or whatever, or mention it, just let them do it. If they're already great creators, don't breathe down their neck every video, because they're going to get, you know, annoyed, really. I mean,
Yeah.
if they're very good, they're like, what the hell does this founder know? He's never grown a social media account before. Why is he talking to me? You know, they're gonna get pissed.
Yeah.
So let them cook, let them do their thing. And again, if it's really bad or the content's not good,
Just
get
let
rid
them
of
go.
them. But you know, that's why it doesn't work.
100%. I agree. I agree with you. And there's one thing, I don't know if from your side, but maybe there's something to be said about product as well.
Oh,
Product,
100%.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, some things are just not going to work. Yeah, I learned that the hard way, because you know, when I was starting as an agency, I was taking on clients, and it, for an instance of this would be an AI like social media platform. I'm not going to name names or anything, but it's very clear that at least Gen Z hates AI. Why wouldn't they? It's taking their jobs, it's taking creativity, like movies are being made with it. They're like, dude, what the hell? We're just losing all of our potential job opportunities, and the rich are getting richer, kind of thing. So they hate AI. So I took that, and I really should not have. And there's other examples of brands like that, but for the most part, you just want to solve like kind of a simple problem that people face all the time, not make it
yeah,
too hard, I think, at least in consumer.
yeah. Super simple, problem you're solving. Simple value prop and then content. That's it. Like there's products that are just very heavy in complexity and they're just not going to work. I think also that's a very big reason.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think Owen, it's great talking to you about these things. I'm very glad that we got to, finally sit down and have a conversation around this. Um, we're going to leave all of Owen's socials below on the description as well as the app. Owen, is there any specific place people should go to if they want to find you and talk to you?
Yeah, I'm at Owen Nurmanen on all socials. Nurmanen's a tough one, so look in the description. But Alex, I just want to say thank you. You know, it's great speaking with you, and you know, people don't know this, but there's a lot of UGC agencies in the space, and I've worked with pretty much all of them. And Alex runs Plutus, which in my mind is by far the best one. And I know this because he's worked with a lot of our creators at Content Circle, and our creators, you know, we can do group calls all the time. And they're like, dude, we love Plutus. They pay well, they pay on time, they give us good, you know, things to work on. The campaigns go well, they're well ran. So like, just all across the board, people are really happy. So that's a huge reflection of you. So just thank you for what you're doing in the space for creators.
I appreciate you, Owen. I mean, we believe that, yeah, there's just something to be said about um, good work. I mean, and I see that with you as well. You just, you're there, you're doing it yourself. You know what good work looks like, and it's just effort, time, experience in it. And I appreciate the words. We always do our best to, take good care of our clients and creators. And I know also for anyone that's watching, Content Circle is a great place to be at if you want to be a creator, and if you're someone who also wants to contact Owen about that. I mean, there's no better place to go. So I appreciate you, Owen, and all the work you do in the space.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate that.